What's cracking, everybody? New video. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is it's not to glorify anything. It's not to put anybody down. It's to spark a thought. I'm sure I'm gonna see a lot of comments, people's opinions. This came from a conversation I've had over and over throughout the years. So let's just get into it. So, what is an OG? Like, really, what is that? It's supposed to mean original gangster, right? It's supposed to be basically, in a lot of ways, replace the word veterano, right? At least in the barrios. It's supposed to be in a term of endearment, a term of respect, right? Now, here's the dilemma, if you want to call it that, right? If we all keep it real, I'm going to talk to the people. My generation knows more what I'm talking about, but if it's in any generation, any era, really. So we all know, if we're keeping it real, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you're from. There was a certain amount of dudes. There was a certain crew in every barrio. Those were the guys that put in work. Those were the guys that went through the juvenile system, through juvenile hall, placement, camp, youth authority, then on to prison, right? It was their names, it was their faces that you saw behind the walls. And then you had other guys who were from your neighborhood, from that neighborhood. They were homeboys. And they did maybe one or two juvenile hall stints. They were in the county jail for some stuff, maybe did, 2 terms, 3-year term there, 4-year term there. And then for the most part, they've stayed on the streets. They weren't the ones to really put in the work, but they were always around, right? And you got the ones, like I said, the ones who were always, the idiots that, were always in jail, couldn't stay out. And they go away. They get stretched out. Not always a life sentence, but they get stretched out, right? And as we know, when you go to prison, you are forgotten. But you know that. That's part of the program, right? So you go to prison, you do what you do, right? And then you have the other guys that, again, they weren't the ones putting in work. They were around. They are your homeboy. But they, maybe got busted for boosting some stuff or selling a small amount of drug, whatever it is, right? But they were always in the neighborhood. They were kind of living off the name, off of the dirt that the other guys were doing as they went through the system, right? And the younger generation grows up. And they always see those guys in the neighborhood. Those are their OGs. The guys that are in the joint know things about them, right? Like, that's the homie and shit, but he's not really serious about it like that, right? But to the youngsters on the streets, they don't see the guys that were really putting in that work. They might hear the name, but they don't see them. And then you got guys, while they're in prison, they figure out they're the problem. And they get out. And they decide to try to be a productive member of society. Some are able to do it, others aren't. But they try to do that. And to the youngsters, those guys are the homie. Hey, that's the older homie and shit. But the one that stayed on the streets That's the OG. My thing is this. Again, I'm not trying to put anybody down. I think anybody that was able to stay out of prison is a whole lot smarter than me. But I also know that I needed prison to become a better person. Had I not caught that life sentence at that time, I would have caught one at another time. My mindset was the way it was. I didn't like myself. I didn't care about myself, so I didn't like other people, and I didn't care about other people. But I know that I can only speak for my neighborhood. I know there's people that, I wonder, man, like how were you able to stay out? How were you able to stay out and stay in this beautiful city and around all these beautiful women and, your family? And you're still dressing like, it's 1990. You still, like you're glad to be called OG, and you're not trying to be an example like, hey, homies, like, get a job, eh? No, it's cool to be this way, but yet you never really were that way. And again, I'm not trying to disrespect nobody. I just, I really do, this Chito Ranas thing, the way he's feeling it, I said it in my video, man, that, there's hoods and barrios across this state that are full of vatos that think like that. There's prisons and jails full of vatos that think like that and feel that way. And I think it's partly because those OGs that never really did time and never really did put in that work, but grew up with them. Those kids looked up to them. Those kids didn't understand the reality of who they were looking up to. There was a mythology that you could say attached to the ones that were doing the jail shit and doing the violence on the streets. But that doesn't matter because that's not who they see. I know I'm rambling and I'm going to get hate. It's fine. I just want people to think about that. Especially those vatos that maybe are those guys. I'm not talking bad about you, eh? I'm just saying, I know you wish you had a better life. So impart that knowledge and that understanding to the younger homies that look up to you like it's cool. There's some of these vatos that are 50 years old, eh? And they're living in their mom and dad's garage. Still G'd up. Still having to hustle. That's an existence. That's not living, man. That's not enjoying anything. That's definitely not enjoying freedom. But I'm going to go ahead and bring this one to a close here. I'm interested to see what people think about this. Because like I said, I've had this conversation in prison and outside of it. And a lot of people feel that way, man. Especially about those that did time. It's like, damn, Holmes, we come to prison and we sacrifice and we go through all this shit. And we did it to ourselves. And it's like, these vatos that we grew up with that we know, like, how about really ain't like that? They're out there, they're not taking advantage of the opportunities that we threw away. They're not bettering themselves. And they're really not helping the little homies. But anyways, that's my video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm sure I'll hear from you in the comments whether you did or you didn't. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out.